Good afternoon.
Hey.
My name is Denisha Jones, and I'm the director of the Art of Teaching program at Sarah Lawrence College in New York.
I've been there.
Thanks.
Great
I'm
school.
also representing the Network for Public Education Action, defending the early years, the Badass Teachers Association, and the National Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action Steering Committee. Teaching has changed drastically over the last 10 to 20 years. Instead of being allowed to use their expertise to develop engaging curriculum that's culturally responsive, teachers are often forced to use a scripted curriculum that rushes children through without giving them enough time to really understand the material. Many teachers feel more like a test prep tutor than a test of children, and they're concerned that both teachers and students are heavily evaluated by standardized testing. Beginning in kindergarten, young children are losing time for play and discovery and instead forced into developmentally inappropriate academic instruction in an effort to get them prepared for tests. Although formal testing does not begin until third grade, younger students are often bombarded with practice tests that narrow the curriculum and often leave them hating school. Given that standardized testing is rooted in a history of racism and eugenics, if you are elected president, will you commit to ending the use of standardized testing in public schools?
Yes. As one of my friends and black pastors, I spent a lot of time, Reverend Henry would say, you're preaching to the choir, kid, okay? Because look, that's why teachers should be able to determine the curricula in their schools. I mean, I'm not being nice. I'm not trying to be nice. There's some lousy teachers out there, okay? There's lousy politicians. There's lousy senators. There's lousy doctors. I'm not saying every teacher is a great teacher. What I am saying is, you know what it takes to communicate to a child what, in fact, they need to know. You should be able to set the dynamic as how to teach. So when I talk about teacher-centric school, and you and I have talked about, I don't want to get you in trouble, but we've talked a lot about this. I was sort of the, kind of had an open door in our last administration, and it was my door that was opened. And we spent a lot of time talking about testing. I think it's a big mistake to move in a direction of making sure that it's all about either evaluating a teacher based on testing or evaluating what their class is. For example, if you're teaching an advanced course in calculus, you're going to look really good, man, as a teacher teaching to the test. But if you're teaching a remedial course in reading like Jill used to do, it's going to be hard as hell because you're not going to have the same success rate. The generic point is teaching to a test underestimates and discounts the things that are most important for students to know. What are you trying to do most of all with students? Build their confidence. Make them believe in themselves. Be able to bring them along in a way that matters. And when you teach, when your testing is the measure of whether or not the student is successful, doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to have a test or how much you've learned. That doesn't mean you don't do that. But testing to a standardized test just makes no sense. But again, I'm not being nice. My deceased wife was a teacher. Jill's a teacher. I taught in at-risk schools when I was going through law school, and I was a bus driver. And by the way, bus drivers and the folks in the cafeteria know a hell of a lot about what's going on. Not a joke. When I drop a kid off, I knew whether or not that kid was going to an empty house. I knew whether that kid was going to be alone. I knew whether that child had a real problem. Just like you do in the cafeteria and they walk through, and you can see the look on their face. The look on their face that they didn't have breakfast. They didn't have. So my generic point is, it's about the people in the system know what is the best thing to deal with, how to get the most out of their students. But again, I am of the view that, as a guy who used to stutter badly, and you all still laugh at when I talk. People will laugh when I say I talk like that. Only thing you can laugh about is somebody who stutters. But I tell you what, I had teachers who first and foremost worked on my confidence, told me I was smart, told me I could do what I needed to do, sat with me and gave me the confidence to stand up and try to speak. Well, it's the same thing. You got to give these kids, especially coming from backgrounds where they're low-income families, they haven't had the same exposure and possibility, but it goes across the board. You got to give them confidence. That's what you all do. You guys and women are not only teachers, you're coaches. You're coaching these kids. You're the people telling them, okay, come on. Because that's the way they try. What happens to your students when, in fact, they do poorly? Their interest isn't, most kids aren't saying, I'm going to work harder. It's, I can't do it. And then they use that excuse, well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. You teachers who touch them, figuratively speaking, well, I hope you touch them and tell them how much you love them too. But my point is, when you touch their hearts, they say, okay. And think about it, folks. I'll end with this. I'm sorry, but I feel passionate about this. Think about this. I'll bet every one of you can name a teacher who helped change your life. Literally gave you the confidence that you could do something you didn't think you could do, whether it was in grade school, high school, or college. We can all name them. I know who mine were. I know who made a difference for me, made me believe in myself and think I could do something. First kid in the family to go to college, but that wasn't a big deal. My parents valued education. But it was just that you can do it, Joey. You can do it. Let me tell you, that's a great piece. But look, you can change this a little bit. Talk from your heart, Joey. Think of the people you help. Every one of them that you've changed, you've touched their hearts. You've given them confidence. And you can't get that out of a teacher's manual.